Welcome back to our van plan. It's a pretty cold, dismal January weekend, and it's actually a year since we got Carlo, which is pretty crazy, being that he's not even finished, but it's been quite a long journey. We've learnt a lot and done some really good stuff, so we're really pleased with the progress, and we're not far away now. So our last part of the build was the upper cabinets, which are now done. Really pleased with those. The final big piece of furniture to put in place and to build basically before we can then start doing the finishing touches is the kitchen. It's going to go to the left of me here, and it's going to consist of, I think, about a 1.30 m wide worktop, which will have a 2-burner hob and a sink on the right hand side, and then underneath we'll have the fridge on the left, drawer set in the middle, and a cupboard on the right underneath the fridge. And then we could put, which I'm really looking forward to, our tile effect splashback, which is going to go here and remove the last part of their plywood that is in the van. So once we've got this part done, it's going to look like a proper camper van finally. We're building the kitchen carcasses out of 18 mm poplar ply, so just measuring the requirements there, getting our maths brains on, which is not so easy this time in the morning. But basically we're going to have 18 mm ply sides coming up to here, and we've measured how deep we want the kitchen to be. So the kitchen, the ply that makes up the sides and the kitchen doors will need to come to this point here, which is 585 mm. The kitchen doors are going to be made out of 18 mm ply as well, so we take the 18 mm off that, which leaves us with 567 as our depth from the front here to the back, where it's going to be attached onto this 9 mm ply here. So 567 for the depth there, and then the height of it, we measured the worktop in our house, which is 895 to the surface of the worktop. We're going to be using this solid laminate worktop, which is I think 13 mm thick, so we'll take that off, the 895. So the height of the sides of the carcasses should be 882. So we are looking for 4 pieces of 18 mm poplar ply, 882 by 567, and that'll form the end piece here, the second piece, the third piece, and then the piece at the other end by the driver's seat. And then we can, once we've got those made, we can cut out the gas piping which runs along the bottom here. There'll be some electrics running through, and 2 of the Truma 65 mm air ducts will be running under here as well. So we need to kind of plan in all of that, cut all of that, making sure all that fits, scribe them to the back here, and then we're all good to go. So I've got my 4 bits of ply cut here that make up the bulk of the kitchen cabinets. I've lined up the best face here because this needs to be when this is sanded and painted, this will be what's on display or visible when you open the doors and drawers and things. So I've got this flush. What it's shown on some of the other sides is slightly out by a few mil, with some bits slightly longer or whatever. So I'm going to clamp this together and then sand around the edges just to bring those down a little bit. I think mostly it'll, when we're scribing out the back, for example, that will take off some of the excess really, but I need to basically just make sure this is all flush, mark that this is going to be the front, and then I can chop away at the other bits, and knowing that this is, I know that this is all going to be true in the end. That's the plan. So yeah, we'll clamp and sand this now, and then we'll look at notching out the parts of this where we're going to need to run the gas through, the heating ducts and so on. The cuts I'm going to make on each of the board is notch out the front here for kickstand. Then we need to basically bridge the gas pipe here, all the electrical wiring that's going to be running through, and 2 65 mm Truma heater air duct things. So what I'll probably do, so we'll have the notch out here, then I'm going to cut a fairly decent notch out here, leaving 50 mm from the back there. So everything can run through each of the sections, and then I need to then just think about where I'm going to put the sort of bracing pieces in. So I think 1 around here, we'll notch out there, 1 at the top at the back, and 1 at the top at the front, and then those will be basically 50 mm strips that will run between all 4 pieces, holding them together, nailed and glued, into place. So I'm going to start with the kickback, the gas and cable and ducting running space, and then get on with the strips that are going to hold it all together. We've also just had a measure of where this end piece can come to, so basically how far that way, because we want to obviously be able to swivel the chair. This is as far as it can swivel, but that's fine because we can look out the window or we can sit facing that way, and then it does rotate in the space available. So this is as far as we can go with the kitchen, which is good, a bit more space than I thought we'd get. So I'm going to just mark that on the back here as well to make sure we don't go any further when we're actually pulling it all together. Okay, so first rookie mistake is how these line up against the back. So if I put that sort of where it might go, oops, I don't know if you can see, but if I push that to the back, it's flush at the bottom here. Then I thought this bit was pretty much level or straight, but it isn't. So then there's quite a big gap here where I can get my finger behind, and then it kind of comes in close again at the top there. Now the original intention is obviously to make this longer and then scribe this out so it fits up nice against that whilst giving us our original desired length here, but I've not done that. I've cut this to the desired length. So I don't think it's going to be an issue for what we need though, because obviously starting at the top, the worktop will hide the gap there. What I might do is get a bigger block of wood here that kind of overhangs at the back there, so I can screw it along the back of these units, but then also it will touch this plywood here and then be able to be screwed in there to give stability and strength and attachment at the back. So I don't think that's a problem. And then at either end, the one on the very end, on the over this end by the seat, you're not going to be able to see this gap here because it's kind of hidden with some of the wall trimmings. And then the one at the front, again, we're going to put a piece, like a trim piece down the side anyway, so that will hide it there. So I think I'm not going to worry about it. Bit frustrating, but you know, you win, you lose. Okay, so we're just working out the dimensions of the fridge, drawers and cupboard space. So we've marked on the wall where this is going to come to allow the seat still to swivel, which is this point here. The fridge we know is 380 wide, so that brings it to here. And then we've got another 18mm bit of ply as a divider. So we've got basically then from this point here all the way to the end over this side to fit in our drawers and cupboards. So this is 940mm from this point here to the equivalent end piece of ply over on the right. We've then got to incorporate an 18mm bit of ply, which will be one of the uprights here, which leaves us with 922mm of usable space in terms of cupboards and drawers. That divided by 2 is 461. So I just need to think about really whether I want a kind of narrower cupboard and then wider drawers, or to try and make it look even. I think in my mind it makes sense to sort of have the fridge and the cupboard on the right the same width, and then the drawers can fill out the middle rather than trying to even it all out. I just need to think about the sink actually, which is going to be at the top of the cupboard part, and making sure that fits within this 380. So I'm going to double check the sink we've bought, and then I think what I'll do is do 380 here, 380 the other end, and then that'll leave us with some nice decent sized drawers in the middle. So just confirming my cross battens, which are going to give support and structure to the kitchen unit. So we're going to have one 50mm piece here. It's going to be running across, joining each section of the kitchen. One at the back, so that's 2 50mm for the top. Going to run another one along the bottom here to form basically a plinth for the base part to screw into. and also support along the bottom. And then our sort of part here is going to have a single piece that's going to run along on the front of that, all the way along the front here, and that's 100mm. So yeah, so 350mm individual battens for each section of this kitchen, and then a single 100mm that's going to run all the way along. And then we will put in a bigger, chunkier bit of wood at the back here that we'll screw through to the battens that are behind the ply here to give extra strength and secure it in that way. Then probably going to kind of glue in the bases and give it extra, as much support as possible really. So yeah, the first step on this is to then cut these 50mm strips, pocket hole them, test all that to make sure the screws don't go through, and I'll get all the measurements right, and then we can assemble the base cabinets. So I've had some success with pocket hole joins in the van build so far, but I'm not a massive expert or confident in the settings of all of these things. So I've got this jig which has worked really well before. I've got some offcuts of the 18mm poplar ply we're using on the kitchen cabinets. So I'm going to do some test drills here and make sure basically that the screws I've got are going to join securely but not come through. At this point, I think this jig is what it is in terms of setup. I've got this one which does give you more flexibility based on the thickness of the wood, but I don't really understand that, so I'm going to try this one for now, and then we'll see what we need to do to adjust. Those look pretty good, and then I'm not too worried about lining it up massively in line, but we'll try pop that in there. And that's okay. You probably could do with a bit of time as well. Yeah, that's fine. Good. I'll just do the second one just to make sure. The last thing I want is it coming through. Yeah. Nice and solid. So that's going to be basically what's going to happen with the bands across the top of the cabinet. Yeah, cool. Right, happy with that. I can make some pocket holes. Now we've got our kitchen side pieces ready, we've got our battens that are going to join them together, pocket hole them ready, they'll be attached like that. It's time to build each one. We're going to start from the left hand side, build that one to the next piece, then build that to the next piece, and so on right to the other end. What we've done then, we've built the right hand part of the unit, so that's going to be the cupboard, and then the left hand, which is where the fridge is going to go, and the hob on top. So yeah, left and right, and then all we've got to do now is fit the same battens that you can see running along here into the middle, so front, back and bottom at the back there, and then we're going to run a single piece for the kickboard all the way along, connecting them all to give a bit of more rigidity. And then obviously once the worktop's on, that will help too. Really pleased with how this is looking. Now we've got the kickboard in place as well. Yeah, it fits really nicely in the van. It's going to be a good size with the hob and the sink up that end. Back in the van, kitchen unit still there. We brought the hob out this morning to work out, well, first of all, see it in position, which is good. Obviously it's going to be sat on worktop, but what we wanted to understand is below the hob there's a certain amount of clearance you need. So what we're going to do, I think it's 3 centimeters from the bottom of the hob to whatever's below it. So we're going to put in an additional, like a enclosed part there below the hob that will run to a false back right the way down to the base unit. The fridge will then sit in this sort of false bit of cupboard, as it were, and then the hob has clearance behind for any gas issues where the gas will go down the back, and then we'll be able to come through to this drop vent here, which hopefully will be enough there. The fridge needs 5 centimeters clearance above it and at the back of it, so we've incorporated that as well. I don't know if you can see, I can't even see them myself now, but we've been marking on the wood just where that's going to go, and what we think we can do now in between where the bottom of the hob's going to be, or the hob enclosure, and the top of the fridge is probably, hopefully, include a tiny little drawer there for some extra storage. In the middle we've been working out how many drawers we're going to fit here, so we're going to use order drawers online at drawboxes.co.uk. We're going to go for 2 big ones, or deep ones at the bottom, and then 2 shallower ones at the top, and then over here is the cupboard. One thing I'm going to do is just glue an additional bit of 18mm ply down this side so that the door will shut onto that, because the drawers will come up and shut onto this piece here, but rather than using a whole bit of ply, we just use a thin strip. Possibly this side as well, because we've got the cushions, so obviously the door can't be right over that bit of end ply there, so we need to think about that. And then Neil had a great idea that this side we could put some little U-clips top and bottom, and then slide the tables in there so they're out of the way in the cupboard, so we'll probably think about doing that. And the final thing is for the sink, we need to put a drain in through the floor there and leave space for the hot and cold taps feeds to come in up through the floor. But the first job for today is to cut the bases for this one, and then to look at this false back and hob enclosure so we can get the fridge fitted. With the kitchen carcass in place now, we can get onto one of the bits I've been really looking forward to since the beginning. That's our splashback. So we bought these, I think they're called multi-panel. So it's a single sheet of 3mm, I think it's like a laminate thing, waterproof, with white metro tiles sort of embedded into them, which is really good. So it's nice and lightweight, gives a nice tile effect, which will look really good in the van. So we need to cut a single piece that will run all the way along the back here. The good thing is we don't need to worry too much about the cuts, because the top part will tuck up underneath the cupboard, and the worktop will cover the bottom part. Over on the left near the cab, I can put a bit of trim in, and then on the right it will transition to the carpet at the back of the van, so I need to just get a strip of some kind of plastic trim or something for that. So we're going to measure this area now to work out what we need to do, make the first cut, test fit it, and then I need to do a bit with, like, obviously making sure the socket holes are all in the right place and everything. Then we can glue it onto the wall to really bring the kitchen to life. So it fits Just need to tuck some wires behind and make sure it tucks up there, but overall this is going to look really good actually, and turn this into a kitchen. So yeah, I think we'll keep the protective stuff on it for now, while we do the rest of the kitchen build and the worktop and everything, and then pop it on at the last minute. Now, the evenings are definitely getting lighter, but still running out of daylight already, and that's 5 to 5, so not too bad. But anyway, last job for today is to cut the drawer fronts. So 4 drawer fronts here, 1 over there, and then the cupboard door for here. As you can see, I've got these additional pieces here, which is going to give the cupboard door something to shut onto this side, and the hinges to go into on that side. So the cupboard door will need to come in just shy of this point, so maybe 15mm instead of 18mm. Same over that side to get the width. The drawers, again, I'm going to measure 15mm of that 18 and 15mm of that 18 on the left to get the width, and then cut a single sheet to the exact dimensions, and then the cuts that I do will then give enough separation between the drawers, keep them nice and close as well, and minimise the number of cuts I need to do. So that's the plan. So first of all, get my widths, then the heights are the same across the each of the sections. Cut them quickly before the neighbours start complaining. Right, another week's gone by. I'm back at Ultravans. I've done a bit of work on the kitchen units in the evenings after work. So I've got drawer fronts, plinth, cupboard bases, boxing in for the hob, and then the carcass over there, where I've just stuck on those extra bits. The glue's drying on those now. I've started to sand all these, so the next stage is to fill them before I can get painting. An update on the paint situation then. So we've got most of the pieces done. We've got drawer fronts here, cupboard door there, then those parts over there are the base and the back of the inside of the units, and then we've got the main kitchen cabinet over here. We're using the Valspar V700 wood and metal paint. It's Eggshell, colours Downing Street, which is a nice dark sort of black colour, which should look really good in contrast with the lighter grey worktop and then the white upper cabinets. So I think we're pretty much done on the bases and the backs and the inside of the cabinet. I think the faces that are going to be visible, so the drawer fronts, cupboard door and the sides, I'm going to do a third coat, I think, because whilst it's pretty good, an extra coat will give it added durability and so on. So I'll do that now, and then we can think about getting that in the van, fixed in place, so we can build the cabinets together. I can fit the cupboard door. The drawers are coming separately, so those will be done in a few weeks' time, and then we can get on to cutting the worktop. So I've got it in place. Just making sure everything's running through okay down there and over there. But yeah, loving the black colour against the white of the upper cabinets. So I'm just going to play around lining it up a bit more, and then we'll start to screw it into the wall. So I've gone belts and braces with these brackets. So one at the top there, one on each side at the top, which goes into the batten which is behind the ply there, and then done some at the bottom here, bottom there, and the top, and also down here. And then in this end is the cupboard, so again the same, top and bottom, and then I've also screwed in here and at the back into the frame of the bench seat. So in theory this shouldn't be going anywhere, and it certainly doesn't feel like it is, and no squeaks either. So yeah, pleased with that. Annoyingly got to wait a few weeks for the drawers to arrive because I've cheated and ordered those, but I should be able to fit the cupboard door on this end. The fridge is going to go in here as well, but we need to fit the hob above first. So I think the next stage in the build of our kitchen is to start thinking about the worktop. We've done quite a lot of thinking about the kind of worktop we want on here. Obviously with the dark unit here, it'll have a white Metro tile splashback shortly. We wanted something that contrasts well with that. We thought about a wood, a real wood worktop or something like that to kind of match the ceiling, but then we felt like it'd be quite difficult to get the woods to match exactly, and then you've got all sorts of different woods in the van and it'll all be a bit messy. So what we decided to do in the end is go for this, it's a solid laminate Zenith worktop Cloudy Cement from Wickes. It's a bit more pricey to be honest, but it's lightweight, looks good, it's kind of waterproof, heat proof and all that, so it should survive van life. And so that will sit obviously just on the top of here. And then we're going to cut out the hob this side and the sink that side. So we think this is a good compromise, again spending a little bit more money than we originally thought or we wanted to, but we want something that looks nice in the van and does the job. So first of all, to measure the width with a little bit of overhang each side, and then the depth, it comes in 600 mil, and I think this should be pretty much that. I think this is like 58, plus the doors and drawer fronts should bring us up to, with a slight overhang, the 600 front to back. So measure that now and then we'll get that cut. So it turns out this lovely worktop is actually quite difficult to work with, partly because I forgot to read the part in the instructions that said to cut 4mm at a time and then do the next 4mm and keep going until you get through the whole thing. So as you saw there, the blade jumped, which wasn't ideal. The plunge saw also has a little bit of wobble to it in the track, so when I went back over it to try and cut it properly, it just ended up getting worse and worse and worse. Quite a stressful situation, being that this is quite expensive worktop. Finally was able to make the cut, but the exposed edge was burnt from the blade and also had channels in it where the saw was jumping slightly by a few millimeters. So that was definitely not going to sand out. So I decided to shave just a blade's width off of that and try and do it more carefully in one go to get as neat an edge as possible. Thankfully that worked, but with all the dust that was kicked up, and as I say, the stress of the expense of the worktop and not ruining it, it wasn't the most fun part of the kitchen build, but these things happen. So we'll leave this video here. Please join us in part 2 where we'll continue our kitchen build. We'll see you then.